everyone, it's Jill. Today I want to talk about forgiveness, forgiving other people, forgiveness in marriages, forgiveness in relationships, forgiveness at work, forgiving anybody. I have a blog post which I'll attach this to as well, that where I talked about it. So I'm gonna talk about it a little bit more here. Similar story. Basically, my story with forgiveness originally started over 20 years ago. I didn't even know what forgiveness was, but I had been. My husband had decided to go to law school 20 years ago. He was an engineer, and that was fine, but it cost a lot of money, and we had two little kids at the time. It was before my son was born, and he was going full time. And so I had a whole bunch of thinking about that. And, during the years when he was in law school, where we suddenly didn't have much money anymore, and he was never around because of school and all the work it took. And so I had built up lots and lots and lots of resentment that seemed to all be based on that one thing, everything that came out of that. And it went on for years, even after law school, because money was still tight, and just lots and lots of different things happened, which to me seemed like it was all law school's fault and my husband's fault for deciding to do it. So I was feeling at the end of my rope one day, and this was way back in the 90s, early 90s. And I had a chat room online that I had created, a parenting chat room. And I was chatting with some parents on there and complaining probably. And, just saying how I was at the end of my rope with my marriage and blah, blah, blah. And someone, I think it was a male person, but I'm not even sure, said, well, have you tried forgiveness? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, have you tried forgiving him? And I said, well, I don't know. I haven't. I don't, how do you do that? And, obviously I knew what the word meant, but I never thought of it as a concept. I didn't know. I wasn't brought up, it wasn't something like my parents said, you need to forgive people, or I wasn't religious, so I didn't have that. So I really didn't know much about it. So, I asked a little bit more, well, how do you do it? And this person said, you just make a decision to forgive them. And I said, well, what happens then? And they said, well, once you do that, it's like a clean slate. It's like a new chapter in the book. Everything that had happened previously in the book, it just doesn't, it's not a thing anymore. You don't hold it against the person anymore. There's no grudges about it. And I was like, well, I guess I got nothing to lose. It sounded easy enough. You just do it and see what happens. And, I was really, really naive. I was fairly young at the time. And it just sounded like a good idea. I said, the only thing I was wondering about, did I have to actually go to him and be like, I forgive you, because he didn't, as far as I know, he didn't know I was holding grudges or whatever I was doing, or that I was upset or anything. Because, this was a long-term thing that had just been going on and on in my mind, of course. Now I know. And so I didn't feel comfortable, having to tell him I forgive you. And this person who was talking to me online said, no, you don't have to. You can, if you want to, you can tell them, but it's not required. You can still just forgive them. So I was like, cool, I can do that. And so I literally just did that. I don't really recall what I did. I didn't do any rituals or anything specific. I don't know. I don't know. I just forgave him. There's no words for it. I just forgave him. It meant, I knew in my mind it was a clean slate. I liked the idea of a new chapter of a book. We were starting fresh, and it was cool. So the next morning, I'd say, and again, I don't remember all the details. Everything felt different. I saw him with new eyes, which was, really interesting. He didn't do anything. He didn't know I did anything. But with all of my grudges released, gone, there was nothing, I could see him for new again. It was really cool. And I could, by not holding things against him, I was able to express love for him again, which I imagine, I don't remember, but I imagine I was probably pretty bitchy to him for a lot of years. Just, holding resentment, being resentful, you're not going to really be a very good partner to somebody. And then, of course, in return, they're not going to be a very good partner to you. See, and this is the key with this stuff. And so when I released my resentments, I became nicer, presumably, and I saw him differently. I had nothing against him anymore. And then that gave him the freedom to act more nicely to me, because now he was getting more from me of what he wanted. So it was really, it was so magical. I mean, from that day forward, I felt a complete difference in my marriage, which, lasted for years. It doesn't mean we still had our normal ups and downs, but if something came up, if we were in an argument or something, nothing from the past would ever be brought up. Not that we did that anyway, but it was not like I didn't think about it. It wasn't like, oh, this is just like, law school all over again. It wasn't anything like that. It was done. And I told everybody I knew, except my husband. I have told him since, but I told everybody I knew about this magical power of forgiveness because it was so transforming. And anyone who would listen, I would tell. And I would tell that to anybody. And to me now, I don't get when I talk to people and they say, and even back then, like when they say, no, I can't forgive someone. No, that I can't do it. That would be like condoning what they did. And it's got nothing to do with condoning what they did. I didn't condone anything. And, there was lots of little details that I'm leaving out, which I did not condone anything, but it's holding on to the grievances about it. It doesn't make any sense. So it makes no sense to me not to forgive anybody for anything. It doesn't mean you have to stay with the person. I mean, I could have left my husband and still forgiven him. And I have no problem with that if other people do that as well. I didn't do that. I didn't choose to do that. But just do it. Just freaking do it. Like, just forgive people. It's just a switch. It's just a doing. You just say you're going to do it and you do it. The problem people have with forgiveness is they don't actually do it. They say, okay, I will forgive them. And they don't. They still hold the grudges. They do it half-assed. And so they're, as soon as something comes up in the relationship, they bring up the old crap that they're holding on to. That's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is really letting it go. And I can't describe how you do it, what it is, because it's just a switch. You just do it. You mean it. It comes from your heart. It's not from your head. It's not that. Now today, forgiveness for me is just second nature. It's something I do I don't think about it. I don't say I forgive you or whatever. It's just everything that happens, I know it comes from my own thinking, the way I feel about things. And I understand the way my husband or anybody else acts is they're acting out of their thought in the moment of what's going on in their head. And yeah, if they're in a low mood, they are often going to act out in ways that go along with that thinking. And so there's nothing to even forgive anymore for me. I just see that other people, they're just acting out of the feeling of their thinking. Even if it's directed at me, it doesn't matter. I can't, it's forgiven the moment it happens. There's nothing to forgive anymore. It's just become a natural thing for me. So anyway, this has been going on like 10 minutes. So I won't bore you anymore. You can post comments if anyone has any questions, I will link this with the blog post as well, and I will see you next time. Bye.